everyone! So Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and it's one of those holidays where home decor can take a very tacky or a very kitschy type of a turn. So it's not a holiday for which I typically decorate. However, I did find a way to give a little nod to St. Valentine in a very subtle way without going over the top. And I made these very cute little wooden blocks with the symbol for hugs and kisses, an X and an O. And all I used was some scrap wood I had laying around, some wood stains, some paint, and some stenciling. So if you'd like to learn how to make this project, stay tuned. I will walk you through it step by step. I'll start by prepping my wood blocks. So I'll set my table saw to cut this block in half. It's 11 inches long, so I need to set it at 5.5 to make 2 even blocks of the same size. Now I need to sand the blocks I just cut. So I'm using 180 grit sandpaper, and I'll just smooth out every side and round out the corners a little bit. So the wood is now sanded, and we can begin staining the blocks. I'm laying down a broken down cardboard box so as not to stain through to my work table. And the stain I'm using is a dark walnut. I am all about this color lately. You always want to stir the stain before you use it. And to apply it, you'll need a small sponge brush. This one's an inch. A very little bit goes a very long way with a stain this dark, so you can squeeze the excess off the side of the can and then start brushing. If you've never done this before, it can look a little scary off the bat because it lays down so dark, but I promise it'll look great as we finish the process. You might also need to stipple the brush a little bit to get into every nook and cranny, but when you make longer strokes, stick with the grain of the wood. And then give it just a few minutes to let the stain soak into the wood. Then you'll take an old rag and wipe off the excess stain. That's when you'll start to see more of what you probably expected, that nice, deep, dark color. Then we let the block sit for a while to totally dry. And now it's time to dry brush. This is the process by which we're going to achieve that very weathered and antique look to the wood. So you'll need a paper plate, a dry paintbrush with somewhat coarse bristles, this is a 2-inch brush, and some white acrylic paint. So the key with dry brushing is just to use a very light amount of paint. That's what will give you that antique look. I've been testing out different ways to get the most even finish to this, and I found the technique that works best for me is dabbing a few dots of paint over the surface, then blending it out so it spreads out evenly. It's kind of like applying makeup foundation where you dab a little all over your face and then you blend it out with a brush. This is pretty much the same technique. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to work on prepping my stencil. I'm actually going to make a vinyl stencil through Design Space, which, if you're not familiar, is the design program used for Cricut machines. A Cricut machine is, in essence, a very high-tech cutting machine. I actually got a Cricut Maker for Christmas and have been having a blast playing around with the different fonts and the different designs. So let's head over to the computer. And so here in Design Space, I'm just adding a text box, typing in the letter X. I like the font Felix for this one, and then I'm sizing it appropriately to fit my blocks. So my blocks are 5.5 by 3.25 inches. So 4 by 2.5 inches will work for my font sizing. And then I'll copy, Command or Control C, and paste, Command or Control V, and just change the text to the letter O. So I've got 2 separate text boxes here. And now I'm going to place the letters where I'd want them to cut on my vinyl. So select them all, Command or Control A, and hit the Attach button down on the bottom right. That will make sure that the layout works for the piece of vinyl that I'm cutting. I'll choose the size of my material and hit Continue at the bottom. And next, it's going to ask me to set my material, which is vinyl. Then I load the piece of removable vinyl on my Cricut mat. The mat comes with a machine, but the vinyl is sold separately, just a heads up. And the blinking C button means it's ready to go. So I'll press that and off it goes. Now along the way, it's also going to show the progress of the cut so you know how much time you have to kill in between. And when it's finished, I hit the blinking arrow button. And this is what comes out. It's very tough to make this out on camera, but you'll see how the cut worked as we continue. So next, I'm gonna take this stencil tool. It kind of looks like something a dental hygienist would use, but this is what I'll use to peel off pieces of my stencil. You could use tweezers, you could use a toothpick, that might even work, but all you're gonna do is peel off these pieces of vinyl that need to show through the paint. And then cut the large piece in 2. Since you have 2 blocks, you'll want one X stencil and one O stencil, so you can split them up between the different wood blocks. And now it's time to grab some transfer tape. So this is what's going to help me get my stencil over to the wood blocks. You can use painter's tape or masking tape for this step, but what I'm really doing in essence is taping over the exposed areas of my stencil to ensure a smooth transfer from the vinyl backing over to the wood blocks. So you're gonna peel the backing and go slowly. Some of the vinyl might try to catch on to the backing, so you need to pay really close attention and work that off gently. Next, we attach our stencil letters to the wood blocks. So you just center them on the block and stick it on just like it's a big sticker. And now it's time to prep your paint. So I actually decided to blend colors for this. My first coat is going to be a charcoal gray, and the second is going to be black to deepen up that color a little bit. Dab the first coat on, and you can smooth it out with small, gentle strokes. Let that coat sit for a couple of minutes and then go back in with the second coat of black. And the next step is to just remove the stencil. And you'll want to do this before the paint has totally set and dried. I do find that it comes off more easily and more cleanly that way. So gently peel it back, and you might need your stenciling tool to help grab the vinyl. And this is the outcome. So I know that this tutorial is labeled for Valentine's Day, but honestly, these are so subtle that if you wanted to leave them on your dresser or on a bookcase, they would work throughout the entire year. So I hope that this gave you some inspiration to give it a shot yourself. Let me know how it goes for you. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you soon.